Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of This Woman Can. Now, I am speaking, my guest this week, should I say, is Marguerite Orane. And we have been trying to have this interview for quite a considerable time when I look back on my notes. So I'm so delighted we're getting the opportunity to speak to Marguerite and her very interesting work all around joy. So I'm very curious, naturally curious. So it should be a great conversation. So, Marguerite, how about you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us all about your journey of where you got to where you are today?
Oh my gosh, Janice.
Big question, big
Oh,
question.
yeah. Okay, so my name is Marguerite Orane, born in Jamaica, 60 something years ago. Very proud of my age. And I will tell it to anyone who wants to hear, and even people who don't want to hear, because in this journey of life, so many of my friends and acquaintances did not attain
Mm,
63. So I think there's something to be very grateful for in, just being 63 and still alive and kicking and hopefully contributing.
excellent.
So when I was born, my parents had a family business, and they were in construction, building construction. And when I was born, my mother always told me the story that they were on the verge of bankruptcy. And, I don't know if you know, but certainly in the 1950s, the bankruptcy laws were terrible.
Right.
They probably still are. You go into bankruptcy, and that's kind of poorhouse,
Mm-hmm,
in the
mm-hmm.
end. And they were going through a very, very rough time. My father was a wonderful builder. He was a perfectionist, but he was not a good money manager at all. And mommy was there trying to balance things. Anyway, so I was born, and I always remember she would tell me, and I will probably tear up because every time I relate this story, I tear up just remembering it. She told me this, would tell me the story that she would be changing me, taking care of
Mm.
me, and here I go. And she would say to me, she said, they can take everything away from me, but they can't take you.
Oh,
And she said I would just gurgle and laugh and just lift her day. So I honestly think that I was just born happy. What can I say? Born that way. And Janice, I look back at photographs of me in school, those class photographs, and I
yeah.
was always the grinning one, king teeth, as they say in Jamaica, right? And always the one playing and never taking school too seriously, much to my mother's chagrin,
Mm.
but somehow managing to get through and to do well at school. So when I left school, went to UE, University of the West Indies, did okay there, and then came back. And within 6 months of my returning and starting a job for one of the conglomerates in Jamaica, my brother called me one day. He's 8 years older than I am. And he was running the family business at the time. And he says, I have been accepted at Harvard Business School to do my MBA, and I'm going.
Wow.
And I think we need somebody to run the business, and I think you'd be the best person. So, Janice, I was 23 years old,
Wow.
5 feet tall, with a round face. I always had a round face, so I looked like about 16. And the family business by that time was now woodwork
Right.
manufacturing business. We made doors.
Yes.
So I was now the boss of 70 men,
Wow.
like
Wow.
rough and tough
Yep.
men.
Yep.
These are woodworkers, right? Joiners and carpenters. And I had 6 months experience working anywhere, I'd helped out
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
family business and so on. And so I was literally thrown into the deep end. And I remember my brother saying, well, you'll either sink or swim, and I think you will swim. So,
Lovely.
so I stayed afloat. I swam. Um, and that was a massive test for me. And I think
Yeah.
it has been huge in how I approach life. My parents were still in the business. Not only did I become the boss of 70 men, I became the boss of my parents
Wow.
because I was the managing director,
Yes.
so officially. And it made for a very, very fraught situation with my father, who um, kicked and screamed and resisted every step of the way. But it brought me extremely close to my mother.
Right.
And after 3.5 years, we realized that the business was always going to be sort of marginal. It was in the 70s in Jamaica when we were going through that whole,
Right. Yes. Yeah.
turmoil and adjustment with socialism.
Yeah. Yeah.
People were leaving Jamaica. The economy wasn't doing well. The dollar was devaluing massively. And we said, and mommy and daddy were reaching retirement age, 60. And they had nothing. They owned a house, but the
Yeah.
house was used as collateral to the business. So they
Right.
owned
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
And so we decided, you know what? And then I decided, oh, I want to go to business school too, by the way. So, um, so yeah, we went on that path. I got accepted to business school. I also went to Harvard Business School. And we sold the business. It's one of the last things that I did before I jetted off to
Right.
Harvard, which was to negotiate the sale for the business.
Right.
And mommy and daddy were free
Yeah.
financially. They were able to enjoy retirement. Daddy lived another 14 years. Mommy lived another 30 years. And they were financially free. And I think that's so important
Definitely.
for us to remember in whatever we're doing as entrepreneurs or whatever, to remember that, there is life after what we call work.
Most definitely.
And we need to prepare for it.
Yeah.
I guess I can say we prepared late, but mommy and daddy prepared in terms of creating something that was of value to someone else that they could sell.
Right.
I think the other lesson I got from that, Janice, is that to not be afraid to sell. Sometimes we think that, we must hold on to the business forever and ever.
Yeah.
There comes a time when the right decision is to sell it. And
yeah.
There were a lot of people I know who, looked askance at our decision. Because how you could sell this business?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
This was at the time, and entrepreneurship wasn't even a word, right? And so we were, one of the few successful Black family-owned businesses, and people were like, "Oh my gosh!" Almost, and I didn't say it, but almost like, "Did we sell out?"
You could feel, you could feel it, yeah.
And I think the first thing as an entrepreneur, as anyone, is to take care of your family.
Yeah.
And so I think all three of us, I have a elder brother, and a younger sister, are very proud of the fact that we were able to make sure that mommy and daddy could have a wonderful old age, if I can say so. So that took me off to Harvard Business School free. and actually, while I was there, I did a lot of processing around the experience I'd had running the family business, which was one of duty. And it was a miserable experience. It was tough. And I resolved then. I remember going to see one of my professors and having a talk with him. And I resolved then that from then on, I would enjoy whatever job I had.
Right.
And so joy was going to be a huge part of that.
Okay.
So that's what I've done ever since.
So what point? Okay, joy was almost your philosophy. So how has that shaped your career?
Well, it shaped my career in that the only time I have only ever been employed to anyone for 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
when I returned from HBS in 1985, I had actually been given a scholarship by Maurice Facey of Pan Jamaican. And so I was very grateful to him for that. And so I went to work with Pan Jamaican and had a wonderful time. I ended up running a subsidiary that they had just bought, and it was so much fun. Oh my God.
Mm.
It was fun. But there came a point when I realized that I felt the business was a mismatch with the
Right.
corporate entity.
Yeah.
The corporate entity were very much into real estate development and, projects, and they couldn't understand the day-to-day grind of manufacturing.
Right.
And so I felt they weren't supporting it in the way it needed to be supported. So I decided, okay, time to leave. I worked out my bond to them. And then I looked around and I said, well, there are no other companies I want to work with in Jamaica. So yeah, and so that's when I started working for myself, and I've done that ever since.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
That's a great story, Marguerite. It's a
yeah,
fantastic story.
yeah.
So throughout that journey of working for yourself, what has been the biggest challenges that you've faced?
Oh boy, biggest challenges. You know what? It's focus.
Right.
It's really, I've always just been challenged by what is it that I just need to focus on.
Yeah.
And I will joke and say, oh, that's what happens when you're multi-talented. You can do so many things. And all of us will find that if you think about it, we're good at many things.
Yes. Yes.
And so the issue is, what is it that I really want to take and just be the best at and focus
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
And that has been a challenge for me. And I think I've wavered somewhat. And even the whole issue around joy and joy at work and joyful workplaces, I wavered and was very reticent with
Mm.
that for a while. It was like a best kept secret. And, I was very tentative about sharing that with
Yeah.
my corporate clients. And then now I realized, yeah, that's who I am.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going
Yeah.
to share it. So I do so unabashedly.
So what was your reticence about that, about sharing? Because it's definitely a different angle.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So what was your reticence around that?
So the reticence was, would I be taken seriously?
Right.
Because,
Right.
laughy people
Yeah.
tend
Yeah.
not to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And the way we view laughter and humor and
Yeah.
joy and happiness, I mean, if you think about, you must be familiar, I'm sure you have similar proverbs in Antigua about, laughter, and, careful, and all sorts of things. None
Mm.
come to
Mm.
mind right now, but
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
tons of them. And so there was that concern about how this whole aspect of smiling and being joyful. Look, when I went to Harvard Business School, everybody was serious. They were in
Serious.
black
Yeah.
suits and gray
Yeah.
suits and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that kind of thing. You gotta be
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
And a turning point for me was in January 2013. I was walking through the Miami airport, and on my way to
Hmm.
Jamaica, and I always like to go into bookstores, and I saw this smiley face cover on a magazine, and I love smiley faces, as you can imagine, with anybody who is into joy and laughter. I love smiley faces. So I saw the smiley face, and lo and behold, it was Harvard Business Review, and I'm like, what? And they had dedicated this whole issue to the whole to happiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they did research and they presented the research, and I still have that magazine, that copy.
Hmm.
I tend not to throw away my Harvard Business Reviews, but I still have it. And what something struck me, it said in the research they found that happy employees were 30% more productive, um, three times as creative, and that workplaces where people were happy were 30
Yeah.
something percent more profitable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, heck, that's a hell of a value proposition. And, you know,
Mm.
Janice, you know, you've been
Mm.
in corporate life.
Yeah.
You know that there are actually very few, if any, initiatives that you can undertake, whether it's restructuring or re-engineering, that
Yeah.
can give you those
Yeah.
kind of returns, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
So I felt validated by Harvard Business Review. And so I've said, okay, well, if Harvard Business Review agrees with me, then I am going full speed ahead with this thing. So that's where I've been
Fabulous, fabulous.
going. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing there for you is authenticity, and it's something that rings, you know, and sometimes it can be a bit of a played out word, you know, talking about being
Yes.
authentic leaders and your
Yeah.
authentic self. But I think when you're fighting against your authenticity, it's a battle. And
It is.
I've been there, because as a leader, like you said, you as a leader, it's always about, especially for me, well, you know yourself, I was a female leader and a male, and first female leader, first female
Right.
CEO, male dominated world. You know, you saw how they came in their suits, how they looked, how they spoke. And I remember thinking to myself, I can't do that job if that's
Yeah.
what you want me to be, you know. And I always remember my boss saying to the point, well, Janice, be you, you know. And it
Mm-hmm.
was, and it, you know, it just never dawned on me to be me, because I kept
Yes.
seeing what I
Yeah.
saw. And then once I decided to do that, that has just been a guiding, like I thought, you know, I've always been me, so keep on doing that, and it will put you,
Yes.
you know, once you, as you said, happy with who you are and yourself,
Yeah.
how you lead, your people can see that, and they also feel they can do the same.
Absolutely. And it
Yeah.
works. And
Yes.
it just creates joy.
Yes.
So in this journey, um, I have coined the acronym JOY, Journey of You.
Okay.
And this is my coaching program. And what I basically do in the coaching is I coach people who are already very successful,
Right.
but get to the point of success and look and say, okay, but why am I not happy? Why do I feel unfulfilled?
Mm.
And I think that's a huge issue. So the journey of you, JOY,
Yeah.
is very important for women, but also for men, in terms of what is my journey and how do I define success? Because
Yes.
most of us
Very
get
much.
onto this success
Yeah.
ladder
Yeah.
that's defined by, first of all, defined by North America.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
Caribbean people, and I'm sure you have people all over the world, but let me just relate to Caribbean people here. That's not us.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we laugh, we sing, we dance, we hug, and we do that. And when you
Naturally.
take that
Yeah.
away from
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So I have clients in the US, in Canada, who are of Caribbean heritage, and they have done very, very well by the
Yeah.
hallmarks of success.
Yes.
You know, they
Yeah.
are on that success level, but they're like, you know, I feel like I leave a part of me when I go to work.
Yeah.
I feel like have to suppress that Caribbean part of me, that
Mm.
loud and
Yeah.
proud and
Yeah.
colorful and lively and expressive part of me. And I really help them to see, like, you know, you can do both. And you know what? When you do both, you actually do better
Yeah.
on that defined ladder of success, or you choose a different ladder. What can I say? That happens.
And I think they also need to realize that success, the definition of success, I think changes. I don't know about you, but definitely for me,
Yes.
as I've matured, what I would have
Yes.
deemed successful in my 20s, 30s, the financial rewards, the external trappings, are no longer what I look for as success.
Yeah.
As I've got older, and it really came to me as I made that transition from corporate to entrepreneurship, in the fact I was still trying to define my success as I would have done in the corporate world, and couldn't understand why I wasn't feeling happy with what was happening, and I had to redefine my whole values and the success. So yeah, I think that's a really good point
Yeah.
to raise. Really good point to raise. So Marguerite, if you had to start over from scratch, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
Janice, I asked myself that many times, and my answer is always, after a pause and a deep reflection, nothing. Because that journey brought me here, and I
Yeah.
believe good and bad contributed to who I am today.
Right.
I mean, there are things like, would I have chosen Stanford Business School instead of Harvard Business
Yeah.
School, which I was accepted to Stanford. And I think about it, well, if I graduated from Stanford Business School in 1985, I would have been on the cusp of the whole internet and dot-com boom and so on and so on. And then I'm like, but then maybe I would have stayed in the US, and then you start to go, I'm like, no, okay, so I didn't. That's all right. Different. Should I have stayed in corporate? Should I have plugged along in corporate when I left Panjam? Should I gone to another large organization? And so I like to live life. I mean, part of joy is living without regret.
Right.
And just acknowledging that, whatever it is, good, bad, indifferent, listen, it's brought you to that place. I would have, though, been more focused, as I now am at the age of 63, been more focused back then on really being more disciplined with my financial planning and preparing for, I don't want to say a retirement, because I suspect you're like me, you'll never retire.
No.
Because you love what you do, right? But just preparing, I think, and retirement for me means getting to the point of what I call absolute financial freedom, where I never have to work another day in my life for money, but I work.
Yes.
So if I want to give my services away for free, I can. I have that choice.
Yeah.
So that's how I would. So I think if I was more focused on that in the early days, that's part of the regret or learning, if you will, to stay focused on that, and not just focused on that for your business, but to make sure you separate your business from you personally.
Right.
And come to think of it, that is a big learning. So just from my parents, so they always had their business and personal finances intertwined. Remember, I told you that the whole family home
stuff,
was collateral. It's very important to keep them separate.
Yeah.
And while you're building your business, to build your own personal wealth and financial foundation. And I always tell people when entrepreneurs that I coach, your business is to serve you. And the day your business is not serving you, not supporting you, you need to take a good, strong, hard, honest look at it.
Right.
So I'll tell a little story about that. My sister and I, a few years back, we had a business doing gift packaging and retail in Jamaica, and my sister ran it. And as you can imagine, at Christmas, it was frantic.
Yeah.
So at this particular Christmas Eve, the tradition was the family would go to church for midnight service, but she couldn't, because she was running the business. Would close at midnight. So after church, we'd go up to Best Gods, what's the name of the business, and we'd just be with the family, the staff there, and celebrate and open gifts and stuff. And this particular night, she had a son. My sister had a son by then. He must have been about 9, I think, maybe. And she asked me to drop him early in the evening at his friend's house, and she would pick him up later. So I did that, and gonna cry again, but humor me. So we're driving in the car. His name is Kyle, and I'm driving up to his friends, and he says, Auntie, you know what I want more than anything for Christmas? I said, what, Kyle? And he says, I just want to be with my mommy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
oh, like tore my heart out, right? I said, don't worry, you'll be with mommy later on tomorrow. So drop him. So after church, we go up to Best Regards, and I see Carol. And I said, Carol, where's Kyle? She says, oh my God, I forgot him.
oh, wow.
Forgot him. Can I tell you, Janice, within that month, we had sold that business.
Wow. Yeah.
Because it no longer served.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
when, you know, with all the goodwill in the world and everything, she is like the best mother I know.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I'm like, you know something? Yeah.
Time.
To sell.
Time.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
Time. I totally understand that.
Yes. Yeah.
So Marguerite, confidence. And I may make an assumption here, but you come across as fairly confident. Sometimes we develop that as we get older and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But have you ever had challenges with confidence? And if so, how do you overcome them?
Oh yes. Yeah, I know I appear confident, and I am in many ways, but don't take me to a cocktail party as a stranger. I am that little flower pot in the corner that just kind of melts. I don't do that well. Put me in a room in front of 1,000 people to speak, and I'm like, whoa. I
know exactly what you mean. How amazing is that?
I don't know, but I just accept it now. And to be honest, I don't go to cocktail parties anymore.
It's one way of dealing with it. One way of handling it.
Yeah. So, so when I moved to Canada, I moved to Canada 10 years ago to Toronto. You know, it's just one of those life moves that you make for many, many reasons. Myself and my 2 children, or by then, two of my 2 birth children. I have an older stepson. By that time, I was divorced, and it just felt like the right thing to do. And when I moved to Canada, I remember my brother asking. My brother is a mechanical engineer by training, and very, very organized and plans his life to the T. I'm like, yeah, well, you know, I'll just go with the flow kind of thing. And, you know, let's see what happens. So when he says, so what are you going to do in Canada? I'm like, well, you know, I'll just see what happens. So when I got to Canada, I was fortunate enough to actually get very immediately a teaching position. It was by semester, but still teaching position anyway at Ryerson. So I did that for a year or 2, but then I realized this gig wasn't going to last for long, and it was very tenuous because it was semester by semester. So then I started to job hunt. And I'm like, you know, Janice, I'm like, yeah, okay, I have a Harvard MBA, people. I have, you know, an endless amount of experience. I have actually worked on projects with Canadian firms. I have done work for CEDA, Canadian International Development Agency. So, you know, this Canadian experience, I have that. Yeah. Well, girl. So I started to job hunt. And let me tell you, that thing brought me down real fast to the reality. And let me tell you, the only thing that kept me going was that, you know, I was pounding the pavement, going to networking events, applying for jobs, getting nothing, because up here they're people rude, so they don't even acknowledge your application to say, well, thank you. And you know, that's an automatic thing, that's an automated responder you can do, but at least let some people know that their application got to you, right? And I tell you, you know what kept me sane and happy during that time? I had brought 3 dogs with me to Canada. 3 little little Shih Tzu poodles. And I tell you, every day when I walked in that door, no matter how awful people had been to me,
Yeah.
they greeted me with total joy. 3 wagging tails,
Oh.
3 dogs jumping up and down. It just reminded me that whatever people out there might have thought, these animals know that, listen, I'm just wonderful. As you can see, I'm a dog lover, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that really, really, really helped. And then I just had one of those aha moments. I was in this job interview for one of the large banks here, and I was sitting in front of this woman, and it literally, Janice, I describe it as an out-of-body experience, and it was.
Yeah.
It really was, because I was sitting there talking to her and answering the questions, and there were stupid questions like, "So tell me about yourself." I'm like, "What? Hello? Ask me something else, no? Tell me about a time when," and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm answering the questions. And on one hand, I'm sitting there and I'm desperate for this job, because by now, this is about 2 years into Canada, and, financial situation kind of. And I'm answering her and trying to convince her that I'm the right person. I can do the job, even and I just, in this moment, just found myself looking down at me and talking to her. And while I'm talking to her and trying to convince her that, yeah, I'm the right person for this job, I'll do a great job. This me looking down at her saying, "Marguerite, you don't want this job. You don't want to work for this woman. You don't want to work for this organization." And so the interview ended. And just in that moment, Janice, I decided to hell with it.
Yeah.
So I wrote down, and in my book, which we haven't got to yet, I wrote about this experience. I got on the elevator, thanked her nicely, and I literally danced into the subway. And I looked at all these poor people, and I'm like, whoops, I'm free. At that moment, I decided, something? I am going back to doing what I've always done, have my own business.
Yeah.
So I made that decision on subway ride home, half an hour. So here's the thing now. This is why when you're authentic, the whole world opens, right? So the next day, my eldest son, my stepson, was visiting from Trinidad. And so we went out the entire day. We're having fun with him. Of course, I don't have any more job hunting to do, right? So I'm like, yeah, I can go
Free
for
and
a whole
easy.
day. Free. And I come home and I check my email. This is November. And there's an email from a former client in Jamaica who says, "Hi, Marguerite, would you be available to come and do a strategy retreat for us in January?" I'm like, oh my gosh, the universe just validated my decision.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
So coming back to that authenticity thing. Yeah. It's so important to just be who you are.
Yeah. So you've reached for your goals, Marguerite.
Yes.
What do you think holds women back from going for theirs?
I think it's our feelings of self-worth. Yeah. So when I was in Jamaica, I had a business partnership with a man, very good friend.
Yeah.
And this always struck me. We would sit together and we would be costing a project. And invariably the fee that he would state would be 20% more than what I stated. And that struck me because I think many times, as women, we don't see our worth, we don't recognize our value, and we're too quick not to. Also, I don't think we support each other. So there is a wage gap between men and women. We know that.
Yeah.
So can you tell me, Janice, how that happens when I would say probably 95% of the HR professionals in the world, much less in the Caribbean, are women?
Yes.
and
Yeah.
know exactly how much people are earning.
Yeah.
And yet there's still this
The
wage
gap. The
gap.
gap. Yeah.
Can you just whisper to me, Marguerite, you see that job, ask for 20% more?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where's that? Are we
Yeah.
supporting each other
Yeah.
practically?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Ah,
And I think on the flip side to that, because I've been in that situation where
yes.
I've always gotten very well with HR, and like I said, they're all variably women. But when I've gone for roles, I've said, look, this is what they're offering. You don't have to tell me the figure, but yeah, and I'm not asking you to take it, but just give me a nod,
Yes.
right direction, wrong direction, just
Yes.
just to have that. So I think for us as well, if we're in that situation, we, like you said, self-worth, we need to
Right.
have that confidence to say, well, actually, is this right for me, or have I done my research, have I looked at it,
Yes.
why are they offering me that, let me just challenge and push back.
Absolutely.
I've got a colleague quite recently who's accepted, it's just not a new role, and she said the package is really great, blah blah blah, and I want to ask her, have you accepted the first package? there is
Good
always
point.
there is always room for negotiation, because I put myself in my leader head. As a leader,
Yes.
I'm looking to get the
Yes.
best return for my buck. So if I can
Right.
pay less, I will pay you less. But if you're the
Yes.
right person for the job, I will pay you more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think we need to kind of have that. They've already been for a process of elimination and identified you as the best person for it. So yeah, ask
Yeah.
for your worth. Have that
Yeah.
confidence. So yeah, that's interesting. That's really, really interesting.
It is. It is. Pause. We need to pause and think about that. So just recognizing our own value, one,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then being willing to take the risk, because it's a
Yes.
risk,
Yes.
of standing in that value,
Yes.
of somebody saying, oh, who she thinks she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hear all the time how expensive I am. I know that is damn crap,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they pay they pay big consulting firms and so on,
Yes.
way more than I could ever charge.
Yeah.
But you know what? If they think I'm high price, that's fine. I am,
Yeah.
because I know the value that I give. So yeah.
And that's interesting, because I think I've also kind of grappled with that, about understand, the worth and what do you pitch at, and
Yeah.
what, but I've got the point where stop thinking small. You naturally kind of bring yourself down and play
Yeah.
small, when actually you're worth more than that. So my mantra right now is just, think big.
Yep.
I check
Yep.
myself every time. I say, okay, what's your mindset there? Are you thinking, is that the best you can do? Is that the best that's for
Yes.
you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, it really is definitely a mindset change there.
Yeah.
So Marguerite, you
Yeah.
mentioned your book.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about your book.
So I have two books. I've published two books, written and published two books. So both with two different stories. So the first one I published in December 2007. And that was a 90th birthday gift for my mother.
Okay.
So I'd been writing a blog at that time. It was called Free and Laughing. No, it wasn't called Free and Laughing at the time. Sorry, scratch that. So I'd been writing this book. It was called Marguerite's Musings at the time. And it was just about spiritual stuff and all sorts of, just reflections. And people loved it. And they would always say, well, Marguerite, when are you going to write a book? I'm like, oh, I don't know, blah, blah. I'm busy writing a blog. And then one day I realized I was trying to figure out, so what am I going to give mommy for her birthday? What do you give a 90-year-old? Who is now financially independent, because I told you we sold the business, right? So she's don't need anything material. And it came to me one day in the shower, those shower moments where the water is pouring down. And it came to me, he said, oh, I'll do the book. I'll write the book. Because what I realized is that my blogs at the time, I think I'd already written 60 blogs. I was blogging from 2006.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I already have the content.
Yes.
That's the number one.
Yes.
You already have
it.
stuff.
Yes.
You have stuff. You don't have to start everything from scratch.
Yeah.
You have stuff.
Yeah.
So I sat down. I said, "Yep, okay, I'm gonna do the book." So one September, remember now, her birthday is December.
Yeah.
September. It was actually a weekend. We had a tropical storm in Jamaica, and I sat down and I printed out all the, but very intuitive. I printed out all the blogs that I really liked,
Yeah.
just printed them out, put them together manually, read them. And there was one particular one that I wrote that where she had said to me, had emailed us, her daughters,
Hmm.
and said, and she related the experience of going out to shop. And my mother was always a beautifully groomed woman. I mean,
Yeah.
I was asking you about, should I wear makeup for this
Yeah.
interview? She wouldn't even ask. She'd turn
Yeah.
up, made
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
right? Beautifully coiffed and everything. And she related this incident of going out to shop to the supermarket with a friend. He took her,
Mm.
and she looked down, and her socks were mismatched, and her pants were halfway up her legs. And she says, but I didn't care because I was warm and comfortable and I was free and laughing. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the
Very
title of
good.
the book, Free and Laughing. So that became the title of the book, Free and Laughing, Spiritual Insights in Everyday Moments. And it was one of those highlight moments of my life because that book came together in a matter of 2 months.
Right.
At the time, although I was self-publishing, there wasn't the print on demand
Right.
option.
Yeah.
And so I actually had to get it printed overseas and order and
Right.
send 1,000 copies. Janice, that book was published and ready to give her for her birthday,
Nice.
and in like record time. And all people say, well, how did that happen? And it was just joy. It like the right people
Mm.
just came,
Mm.
they just came out of the woodwork, literally just appeared. The book designer, the editor, everyone. We had this fabulous launch of the book. It was at a nightclub place outdoor, and the launch was on the Monday night,
Mm.
and so we get a call on the Monday. Um, yes, the Governor General and it was Sir Kenneth Hall. Sir Kenneth and Lady Hall will be there. Have accepted your invitation. I'm like, what? So I called my PR person. I said, Melody, we just got this call. Did you invite the GG? She said, oh yes, we did. And the Governor
Ah,
General turns up,
excellent.
And here is my insight on that. When your motivation is love, pure, unconditional love, again, the universe will conspire to make everything
Mm.
happen with ease, grace, and joy. Because that's how that book
Mm.
happened. So I gave mommy her a copy of the book, and she was just thrilled to bits. That was a good crying moment
Mm.
between the two of us. Then I had 999 more to sell. So I went about selling them, and just had so much fun doing readings and that kind of thing with the book, and eventually converting them to Amazon and doing print on
Mm.
demand. Fast forward, when I moved to Canada, that was in 2007. I moved to Canada in 2009. And it's kind of looking for, something to do and to expand. And so
Mm.
I signed up for the certificate in creative writing at the University of Toronto. So I always joke, yeah, I publish a book and then I go to learn
Yeah.
to write. Okay, back quiz, but whatever. And so I did this wonderful course that really just opened my eyes to this creative nonfiction
Mm.
world, which is so different to business writing, which, as you know, is very sharp, to the
Yeah.
point, bullet
Yeah.
points, and all of a sudden, oh, no, 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 slow down. See, we want to see the place. We want to see the character develop. I'm like, what? Character? But the part of the requirement for the certificate was to do a final project, which had to be a minimum of, I think, 22,000 words. So when I did that, then I said,
Mm.
but if I do all of this there is no way I'm not going to just share this. So
Yeah.
I published my second book, which is Forget It, What's the Point? Letting Go and Claiming Joy. And both Free and Laughing and Forget It are stories, short stories from
Right.
my life.
Excellent.
Business, personal, parenting, moving to Canada, whatever, just things that I just share. And the highlight of that process for me, of Forget It, What's the Point, was deciding who the foreword was going to be written by. And the minute I said, okay, I know who I want. I want Archbishop Desmond Tutu to do the foreword.
Wow.
And so my coach said to me, she says, well, if Archbishop Tutu can't do it, who next? I'm like, no, nobody. If he can't do it or won't do it, then there will be no foreword. Because if you think about Forget It, What's the Point? Letting Go and Claiming Joy. Who better, Janice? I mean, his whole life, you think about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and all of that, and you just look at him and you just feel joy. I'm like, he's perfect. So, needless to say, Archbishop Tutu wrote the foreword.
Wow. We weren't even going through what that process is. We weren't even going into that.
Magic.
So, Marguerite, what are the 3 things you've learned about yourself during your career?
I have learned that I can do a lot more than I think I can.
Yeah.
I've learned that because there have been so many wonderful people, funnily enough, most of them men, who have seen stuff in me, who have seen my potential and have encouraged me and sometimes thrown me into the deep end, and said, swim. So I've learned that I'm a lot more than I think I am. I have learned that I have an ability to triumph over adversity.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have sat here and told you about my hard luck stories. And there are hard luck stories, but I wouldn't trade them for the world. They are there to learn. So when you asked me a while back earlier on in the interview about challenges, I paused. So I'm like, challenges? Yeah, of course. Yes, Marguerite, you've had some serious challenges in your life, but I viewed them as situations for me to learn and to move on.
Yeah.
And I think the third thing is I've actually learned to become a very good listener, which surprises me because I don't think I used to listen to anybody earlier on, but for some reason, I don't know, I just developed this very empathetic way of listening that people really warm to. And in that process, sometimes I will meet with people, long lost friends, haven't been with them, and they will go off and off and off on, what they're doing, and at some point in the conversation, they don't even ask how I'm doing. And I realize that, and I'm at the verge of saying, so you're not asking how I am? And then I say, no, because I know how I am.
Yeah.
So, and I just sit and listen. And I actually have come to the point of really, really enjoying that listening, and also enjoying how much it helps people just to be listened, truly listened to.
Yeah.
I think now, I don't know if it's a gift, a skill, or whatever, but I'm really happy that I've developed this or have this gift.
Beautiful. So, I've been listening. The last couple of questions, we talked about success and various different success. What's your definition of success?
Okay, doing what you want to do with joy.
Excellent.
The hard part of that is figuring out what you want to do.
Right.
clearing away the years and years and probably generations of all the shoulds that people said you should be doing.
Yeah.
You know, you should be a lawyer, you should be a doctor, you should be a mother, you should be a wife, you should be this, you should be this, and clearing that away and just getting very clear on what you truly, what makes your heart sing and dance. And that is a journey of you, a joy, but a good signal of whether you're beginning to get it is whether it's actually making you feel good and making you fulfilled.
Right.
And so I don't think there's any one success, journey of success for everyone. I think everyone has to chart that themselves. So for me, my success is in helping others to really feel that same and take that same joy in life. And when I just have one person saying, you know, Marguerite, your book changed my life, I'm like, yes, I've done it. It just one person.
Yeah.
That's all. Just one person at a time, feeling joyfully and happy. And especially, Janice, you and I are in the same space of leadership.
Yeah.
When you have a leader who now takes a look at him or herself and says, you know what? I have been leading this way because that's what the textbooks told me to do.
Yeah.
But it never felt right.
Yeah.
And when I can help that person to embrace their own definition of being a leader and become a better, here we come with the A word again, more authentic leader, then that ripples out. And I've affected not just that person, but I've affected their his or her family, the people that they work with, the customers that they serve, the community in which they live. So it's never just one person. That might be like the little pivot. But when you look at a pivot and you look at that angle and you look long enough out, it's a huge shift. So that's my definition.
Excellent.
Of success.
It's like that domino effect. You just knock the one down, everything else starts falling off.
Everything else,
Excellent.
as long as they're all aligned.
Yes, as long as they're, very true. So,
Yep.
So, Marguerite, where would we find you on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m.?
Well, depends on which country I'm in. So if I'm in Toronto, I'm likely to be in my little condo that I love, curled up with my dog on my couch with my coffee, reading.
Right.
Saturday morning is the days when I'm home, when I like to catch up on National Geographic, Harvard Business Review, Economist, and whatever else I feel to read.
Yeah.
That is a real joy for me, just to sit quietly and just be.
Excellent.
When I'm traveling, I do spend quiet time when I'm traveling as well. If I'm in Jamaica, I'm typically in my brother's garden. He and his wife have a beautiful garden. I miss my garden in Toronto. Oh, I have 4 potted plants.
As long as they're all alive, you're good.
They're alive. Barely by the time I get to the end of winter, they're like, and then I have to start all over. Well, yeah, it works. You know, you can't hold on to things in life. You got to let go and move forward. But I love to travel. So I'm doing more and more travel and lots of fun, off the wall, adventurous travel as well. So that's just such a joy for me. Yeah.
Lovely. So lastly, Marguerite, if our listeners would like to connect with you or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Number of ways. I'm on LinkedIn, MargueriteOrane. That's one. Also my website, www.margueriteorane.com. Janice, I'm not into monikers. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter as Marguerite Orane because
Yes, yes.
I'm not hiding behind
Yeah,
anything.
definitely.
That's me.
I'm with you.
Okay,
I'm with you. And I'll
right.
definitely put all the links in the show notes for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so happy we finally got to
Definitely,
speak. I
definitely,
know.
definitely,
This is
definitely.
wonderful. What a way to end out the year and open the door on a brand new day, year, decade.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your
Yes.
time today,
Thanks,
Marguerite.
Janice. And all the very best to you. I don't know when you're going to post this, but every day is a new day. Every day is a new year. So all the very best to you and
Thank
your
you.
listeners for an absolutely amazing year on your terms.
Fantastic. Thank you.